Balls and a Mic. We have a very special interview today. I believe it's one of our landmark interviews, I'd say. Since we started this, we have the chairman, El Jefe, the boss from SC Loyal, San Diego Loyal. Thank you for everything you've done for this community, Mr. Andrew Vassiliadis. How are you?
Very well done. I'm well. How are you guys?
I'm good. I actually leaned on my Spanish with that because you can never go wrong with Vassiliadis, right?
You guys nail it perfectly. Anytime anybody Hispanic says my last name, I never flinch. I'm like, oh, they're gonna nail it, no problem. Because you guys know there's just no silent letters. If you pronounce everything that's there, you get it right. And I think that's where people kind of flub up. They start making things silent. I'm like, no, look at it, pronounce what's there, and you'll get it.
Yeah. Actually, I was in talks to try to help teach Nate Miller's children how to speak Spanish, and I know that's something that they're going on at their house.
Awesome.
That's exactly the concept. Just read it as it sounds. It's a really easy language, and if anything, just taco, cerveza, una, dos, tres, you're good. ¿Dónde está el baño? But thank you for joining us, Andrew. Obviously, a very busy man. Beautiful background you have, and love some of the helmets you have. We'll get into that because I have been doing a lot of F1 research just for this.
Oh boy! All right.
But I mean, look, it's amazing that you have not necessarily the time, but take time out of your day to speak to fan media like us, and just so we can get to know you and the team better. First and foremost, thank you for what you've done for the city. And it's been a tough couple months for everybody. But that video that you did release a couple months ago, just saying, look, we're here to stay, and you're here to stay. You more importantly, putting your face out. That's something that's really resonates, and obviously it resonates, and I want to just thank you for that.
No, thank you, and thank you to help amplify our voices, right? We can only say so much. It's you guys, it's the other podcasts, it's our base, it's our fan base that needs to amplify that, especially as we move forward on projects like getting a stadium done, right?
Yes.
We can only say so much, and people will only listen to us so much. It's voices like yours that are going to help amplify that.
Definitely. And so, it's really rare that we get a chance to speak to the owner of the boss, El Jefe, man. Like, you are the guy of a soccer team, a professional sports team. Tell us what that's like, man. Like, the only closest thing I can imagine is being an owner of Chelsea on FIFA, and then just using the buyout of millionaires to buy every Messi, Ronaldo, and put them on my team. That's as close as it gets. Tell us, what is it really like to own a team? I can't imagine, it being that much different from FIFA, right?
I will say this. There are parts that are very similar to FIFA. But I think what's been the most eye-opening experience for me is I've always felt like a dedicated fan to whatever sport we want to talk about. We can pick my team and we can talk about how much I read about it, how I listen to every interview, how I do all this, and you feel like you have a pulse on what's going on. And you do, but then being on the other side of it like this, just open your eyes so much that there's so much that you don't even know. Like, there are times when you guys want to know about a player being moved, or like, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And you guys speculate, and oh man, I just want to tell you exactly what's, so it's that kind of stuff where you realize, and actually, as we start moving forward on projects, and as I learn more about the Chargers and how they left the city and what they did right and what they did wrong, you start understanding, like, I never really understood the whole story.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many more things that going on. So it's really opened my eyes up that way. Second, I have to give Warren a ton of credit. The very first meeting that I had to kind of get involved with this, he already had a front office together. And that was something that made it such a strong point for me to get involved. Like, I went into this meeting and he was able to point Pete out, Nick out, and say, like, look at what I'm able to put together, bring to the table. So I knew from the jump that we had something special. So getting involved at that point made it super easy. And then just getting to be in the room with these people as we come up with different ideas, especially now, right? Before it was, let's just operate a soccer team. Now it's, let's operate a soccer team where the whole function of it with having fans in the stands is not happening. How are we going to make our commitments to our sponsors? Stone has made a big commitment. Rady has made a big commitment. Rocket League, everybody, Sprouts. And so we have an obligation to them to help put this on. And so just tackling those ideas with people has been really challenging, but at the same time, an enjoyable experience.
I can imagine that. So, I mean, starting this project, obviously, you guys had short and long-term goals, but after with this whole pandemic, I'm wondering how have those goals changed, if at all?
Obviously, you have to take a look financially, right? Mm-hmm. You have to say, okay, what can we accomplish right now? What was long-term goals? How do we tailor that? And how do we still accomplish that? I can tell you this, I got a lot of text messages and I saw some messages on Twitter right after we announced the Midway arena project, the stadium project, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think a lot of people thought we were thinking about a stadium, especially with what's going on right now. So we can talk about what we're doing, but it's also going to be shown by what we're doing in the community. Putting that project out and saying, hey, if we get through this, if the city says yes, if we get the height restriction vote in November, that we're ready to get a $20 million project done by 2022 season. That's a big commitment and showing that we're still, even through this, trying to plan big for the future. Does it mean that our budget for players is going to double next year? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just about being reasonable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you mentioned the stadium, and to me, it just comes to mind again, the proposed stadium. Like, in what ways do you think it'll benefit the community immediately after opening it, or in the long term?
Yeah, so let's talk about how it'll benefit the club first, right? Mm-hmm. So capacity at USD is 6,100 or about there right now. We were trying to make it bigger, but there's some reasons why we couldn't. We're still going to work on that going forward. But we love what San Diego State's doing in their 30,000 plus stadium, but we don't think a jump from 6,000 to something like 30 to 40,000 makes sense for our club. So can we do something in the 15,000 seat range that will benefit the club? And then on top of that, benefit the community. As somebody who lives around the Midway district, it's a very congested area. Yeah. There's another very big project that's about to start. The U.S. Post Office is down there. It's been sitting empty for a long time. Huge redevelopment project, great, but there's a lot of housing going into that. If you look at the other project being represented at Midway, it's a stadium and a ton of housing. And I think what our project does is we bring a lot of park to it. One example of a great added park to this community is right across the point here in Liberty Station. Mm-hmm. Liberty Station is the third largest park now in San Diego. And so I think bringing not only a sports complex, but a soccer stadium, an outdoor concert venue, and that 12-acre park, I think we're just beautifying that area, which kind of needs a little rejuvenation. The sports arena is 30 plus years old. Yeah. The area around it's, okay, but not great. And I think this project brings that to it. I've read the criticisms, right? It's not 30,000. It's not MLS ready. Okay, we're not ready for that. Let's take the proper steps. I'm sure you guys have seen what they did down in Louisville, right? That stadium is gorgeous. That rivals a lot of MLS stadiums, but that's a $70 million project. Yeah. So during a pandemic, during everything we've got going, you guys are San Diegans. You know how long it takes to get some projects done here in the city. Mm-hmm. Where this 15,000 seat modular stadium, a couple of other examples, Phoenix, Sacramento, they put their stadiums up 90 days. Phoenix set a record or something doing it. And I don't want people to think, oh, you're just putting up, metal bleacher seatings. Yes, there's some of that, but there's full seatings, there's suites, there's the whole gamut of, what you expect from a stadium that's, new.
Yeah. And something that I also always point out with stadiums, maybe not necessarily such large capacity as the SDSU one, is this brings events. It doesn't just bring soccer events, because granted, you use the stadium for the soccer team a handful of days out of the weekend, and that brings revenue in itself. But the other days, look, you can have other type of events. You can have if Comic-Con is looking to expand, if you want to go ahead and it's that connector between Pacific Highway, like you were saying, it just needs to be revitalized down there. But it does.
No, I was going to say, and if you look just right on the other side of Rosecrans, where the Old Town bus depot is and the train station down there, they're adding on to that as well. You know, they're taking the Spay War buildings and turning that into a whole transportation hub. So yes, it's not right there, but it's really close. So there will be a central hub for people to come down to the games. I think it makes a lot of sense to be in that area.
Definitely, and hopefully we can get people like Taylor Swift and the Rolling Stones out of Petco Park's outfield in the middle of a season. I don't know if you ever experienced that, but they mess up the center field, and it just breaks me so much. But if we have something else to have events like that in the off season. But I mean, it's one of those projects that it's going to take a lot. And like you said, you acknowledge the fact that, you know, here in San Diego specifically, it is very difficult to get something like this. But I feel that now with SDSU West, I think that thinking is changing. I've always believed that San Diego is one of the largest cities with a small town mentality. And so that's some of the things that are kind of holding us back. But with something like this, it not necessarily feels homey. It feels like you're doing it with us, the community, in consideration. Right. And so that's something that I feel is different compared to, I heard somewhere on the radio the other day, I think they asked Warren, have you ever been to the San Diego Museum of stadiums that were never built, where it's just a bunch of paintings of stadiums that just never happened? But yeah, it's a great idea moving forward and something to look forward to. I mean, if we're looking at this season, it's one of those things where I've heard along learning the story of the Loyal. 2020 wasn't necessarily the targeted. Sometimes it was a target, but some people were pushing for 2021. I don't want to necessarily speculate, but do you think had we waited for 2021, you know, with COVID would have still happened? Do you think the team would have happened in that situation?
I do. So I can be candid about that. So when I was introduced to the project, they told me that was the option, that USL had said 2020, 2021, your choice. And it was actually Nick Miranda in that meeting. It was my first time meeting him. He stood up and he made the challenge and said, why can't we do 2020? It's a short window, but why can't we do it? And when we do it, when we kick off in March, we didn't know the date then, you know, the feeling that we'll all have that we did this in such a short period of time. And it just got me so fired up. I was like, yes, like we can do this. Now, that being said, hindsight, I've said to the group, maybe we could have waited till 2021. But I think if you want a good example of that, you can look at the other franchise that was coming in, Queensboro FC out in New York. They were supposed to come in 2021. They have now been pushed to 2022. So I think that's a mutual decision, both by the club. I don't want to speculate on their business, but I think they're trying to get a stadium deal done too. And so I think the USL probably would have given us the option to push again if we wanted to. Who knows whether we would have done that or not? Again, we're now talking ifs, ands, that kind of stuff. But we were really, we thought that we could get it. Like I said, the front office was together. We knew it was a short window, but we knew we could get going in 2020. And the other thing is, you know, there's another team with a scarf behind you that had got going in 2020, and we didn't want to let them jump out in front of us. And so we had to say, hey, it's time to go. You know, the time is right. The Padres are the only major league franchise in town right now. We really have an opportunity to grab this city and this community. We also had locked down USD, which we thought was the best soccer facility that we could get for our home games. So there were a lot of things that said go. And again, by April, it would have been nice to start in 2021 with everything going on. But I think we made the right choice.
I think that you guys did the right choice as well, and I think there's a lot of locals, not just on the actual supporters group, but you know, people who are soccer fans around the city. I can guarantee from friends that we talk to, from you know, people who are peripheral to sports and just, you know, maybe only watch football and baseball, they're curious about this, and I think I've told a couple of people, I think this would have worked. This project would have worked even if Landon wasn't a part of it, which thank God he is, but. You know, I think the success was there because it was just so well laid out and so well planned out and executed too, that despite what everybody was saying, like, wow, so many months for this to be done and this to be done, it happened. And now to showcase how strong and how well it was planned, you guys are still going in the midst of a pandemic. Like
Right.
it's amazing that it's your inaugural season and you're still going and pretty high on that table. I mean, that's a separate discussion too, like in soccer wise, but you know, it is important to see that. We can sing all your praises. We can say, hey, you guys are doing this right. The team's doing this right. Even, you know, criticisms. But as the head of this, how's your driving? How do you perceive your puppy, your baby? How is it doing? Like, how do you perceive it?
That's a really good question. One of the things that I've loved hearing from all of our fans, they've said it to me in one way or the other, but they've always said this choice was the right choice. And you can, you know, enter whatever it is you want, coach, sponsor, whatever. There was some arguments about the logo and the name, and I think people have come around on that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what I'm proudest of most is nothing has ever seemed rushed. I feel like we've gotten it right. This is not to toot my own horn at all, but being able to hold on to our front office and everybody through this has been one of the most important things to me.
Yeah.
Because there's so much talent in the room that has so many great ideas that it's going to hurt me a little bit more, but it's important to me that this group stays together because I think we have some very special things that they can accomplish. So I'm very proud of the work that this group is doing on the field and off the field. I'm very excited for the future and where we have to go. I would like our community to take this virus more seriously. You know, I hear everybody wants sports back. If you want it back, then take it seriously because I want fans back in March. I don't know how much longer we can go. You know, we'll still fight and keep this club going. But if we did 2 seasons without fans or anything that looked like that, man, that's difficult, you know, for anybody.
Yeah, I think with 2 seasons with that, I think Warren would lose his voice because, man, you just hear Warren just bellowing in the stands.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want to join him, but I got to stake the integrity, media integrity. But you know what? We're there for what we're there for. But no, that's awesome. And that's awesome to be able to say that you did hold on to your staff. You know, that's important. Again, people don't necessarily hear this or know this, but that's amazing. Like it's a local business. You're a local business essentially. And so,
well, and let's stop about the business. Those people have family.
Yeah.
Who want to live here in San Diego, you know, and one of the pillars of this club is commitment. And if I was to, once the pandemic started, say, hey, thanks a lot, go away. Maybe we'll bring you back in a month. What type of commitment is that?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
You know, and we've all had to make sacrifices across the board, from the front office to everybody. We've all made sacrifices, but everybody said, you know, we're happy to be here. We want to work for the club, and that means the world.
Yeah, no, definitely. And man, like it's tough out there, and you know,
it's tough for everyone.
It's tough for everybody, and thank you for being that amazing boss, straight up, honestly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you love the game and you're a huge fan of it. So I wanted to ask, as an owner, what aspects from the game are you trying to implement in your own club? I mean, I know you must have options. You must want to have something to add. So what are those things?
Yeah. So I told Landon from the start, I'm not going to meddle. I am not going to be like Mr. Dolan with the New York Knicks or, you know, Jerry Jones down with the Cowboys. I played soccer. I coached at a high school level. No more than that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend like that. Do I have opinions? Do I feel like I can see the game and read the game? Absolutely. And I love that Landon appreciates me enough to call me after a win or a loss, and we'll do X's and O's and we'll break down stuff and I'll have recommendations, but I'm never in a place to tell that man what to do with this roster. He came to me right away and he said, Andrew, what kind of style do you want to play? And my initial reaction to him was, well, that's going to be dictated by a roster, right? I didn't know we'd have a big guy like Joe Greenspan. I didn't know what our midfield would look like. So I never put any kind of rails on him as far as how we have to play or anything like that. He will define a system, and obviously that will mutate as the roster changes from year to year. We will have a style of play that, we'll be known for. But I will not meddle in any of that. We do have soccer ops meetings once a week. So I do get updates about, injury reports, all that kind of stuff. We break down, it's every Tuesday morning. So it was this morning. We break down the last match. We talk about what's going forward, and then we address long-term, how we see next year and those kinds of things. Those meetings and being on the field with the guys during training, like I'll go down to practice a lot. Again, I'm not running drills or anything. I'm just I'm just watching. Those are my favorite things to be involved in. I love the design aspect stuff too that we do. The Black Lives Matter jersey was a lot of me. Yeah. So I enjoy it, but really diving in. Oh, you guys would love this. I have a website that I can go to now. It's called Y Scout. Mm-hmm. Type in a name of a player, and I can see anything. I can, like, every clip, every touch he had. I can watch every World Cup game from the last 50 years.
Wow.
It is incredible. And so Landon will give me a name, and then I just dive in, and then I just go down a rabbit hole and I start looking and seeing. So that stuff I really, really enjoy. Really enjoy.
No, it's like, again, like, how fun would this be? Like, I'm thinking to myself, it's a real life football manager. Yeah. And that's a real life career mode. And that's just so awesome to be able to do that. And not even to do that with literally the greatest soccer player in the U.S. history.
I think it's funny that you mentioned, like, I'm not going to meddle with the team or anything. And I was telling Tony, when we watch soccer on TV, we act like we're the coach and we're yelling at the TV. Yeah. And he got to go to the games, and he told me that it's quiet while the game is. And anything you say, Landon can hear. And I told him, dude, how do you keep your cool by not saying anything when Landon is right there? He's just going to turn around and tell you, hey, like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm in charge here.
So actually, there was a moment where one of the Las Vegas Lights player was on the ground. Physio stepped on it. It wasn't waved on, but it technically stepped on the field. And Andrew and Marissa from Fairweather were just like, look at each other. And he's like, isn't he supposed to come out? And so my way of kind of doing that is speaking very loudly because the fourth official's right there. And so I'm like, yeah, actually, in the rules it says that once they come out, they have to come out for a sub. But obviously, you know that, and you know that. So, you just hope everybody else down there knows that. But yeah, it's fun to be able to do that. How have you been enjoying those? Yeah. Sorry.
It's tough for me because I'm right above the away bench.
Yes.
And I just want to go after him. And then I also know that I watched our last match back on TV, and you can hear me. And so I'm like, oh boy, I have to be careful. I don't need a phone call from the league, being mad at me. You were going to ask me, I think, how am I enjoying those games?
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the games. But I said to my wife after the first 15 minutes of the first match against Los Dos, and I was like, I think I want to go home and watch this on TV. The difference is when you're there with the fans, you feel the fan energy. And sometimes that's nervous energy, but a lot of times it's very up, it's very loud and boisterous and all that kind of stuff. But when it's just the players and you can hear them not be nervous, but you can hear, the anxiety in their voices as stuff's going on. There's much more tension that you can feel that I don't feel when it's full of fans. I don't know if you agree, Tony, but that to me has been a little weird.
No,
a little bit weird.
It's something to get adjusted to, just because, I usually what I thought about, like with baseball too, is they're saying, wow, it's so weird being silent. Well, these guys grew up playing in front of high school games with their parents.
Right.
And so that's a little bit different. Whereas if you go into a soccer Sunday league match, you have your bench, and then you have, at least some kind of semblance of fans rooting for you or against you. Here, it's generally just media, you and Warren going at it. But, it's a little bit weird. But I enjoy it just because I enjoy knowing, how much does Joe yell at his defenders? How much is actually Joe yelling at Kempins? Hey, I got this. Just the little intricacies, or how hard Jack Metcalf slides into people's legs.
Yeah, you get to hear which teams use a lot of Spanish and which don't.
Exactly. And like the goalkeeper, I guess last time I had to juggle Spanish for this guy, some guy named Jose, and then it's fascinating, and I hope you get to go in someday.
I hope so.
But no, it's something that, again, the product on the field and something we can move into is something that has been a giant question mark, honestly, because 4 games, 5 games moving into tomorrow.
Big break in between.
Yeah. And so, I mean, have you been liking what you've been seeing from the guys out there? Obviously, we've had every single result now. We've won, we've lost, we've tied. What have you been enjoying as a fan now, of this team, of your team, but how have you been enjoying the actual play on the field?
Well, I'm going to give you coach speak first. What I love to see is effort. Effort and attitude are the 2 controllables, right? Mm-hmm. Everything else that happens to us on a day-to-day basis may be uncontrollable, but our effort and attitude is the one thing that we can bring every day. And that's one thing I don't have to worry about with this group. Even with the loss, I didn't go home and say, well, they didn't give us everything. No, they gave us everything. We just didn't play well. And that's what I love about sports too. I'll watch anything.
Yeah.
Put me in front of a TV. As long as I know the rules and what's going on, I enjoy, whether it's teams or 2 individuals, battling at something, and somebody's better than the other person.
Yeah.
And, and that's why after that loss, I went right on Twitter and just said it just wasn't good enough, So first off, that's what I want to see all the time. Mm-hmm. If we put it out there and we do everything we can, if they beat us, so be it. So I enjoy seeing that from the group. 2, like you said, I enjoy being able to hear the players right now, because you can hear the guys that are committed and vocal and want to push the team forward. I get to see that a little bit more because I get to go down to practice. I mean, that's one of the things that I enjoy most about their practices is even when it's very, heated and combative, when there's a second that they take a break, there's always instruction happening. And it's not necessarily just the coaches. It's Joe, it's Charlie, it's Jack, they're pulling a guy aside, and it's maybe a guy who's not seeing a lot of minutes right now, and they're trying to help them and move them forward. Maybe it's helping Beverly understand English a little better.
Yeah.
So like, it's good to see those things on the practice field. Then, like I said, I have the soccer ops call, so I get to understand what Nate and Landon want to do tactically. Tactically, we're executing what we want to try to do. Mm-hmm. Right? We haven't had to pull out of the 3-5-2 formation unless it's been a last-ditch effort to try to get a goal late or something like that, or it's just not working. Mm-hmm. So you haven't seen us go 3 matches with a starting formation and then just blow it up because it's not working, right?
Yeah.
So I think that plan's working. I don't want to isolate just one example, and because it was a win, but if you look at the last game, I think you have a really good foundation in the back. And at this level of soccer, if you can have a strong defense, I think that can take you very far. I think Stoneman is playing incredibly well. Yeah. I would say the same about Joe, but I don't think he had a great game against Los Dos. Mm-hmm. But what does a competitor do? He comes back the next game, he plays lights out.
Yeah, and he did. He really did.
Joe's, yeah. And then you've got a goalkeeper that's doing his best impression of Tim Howard back there. I lost you guys on video.
See. Interesting.
Oh, I got the logo.
That's interesting.
It's all good. Let me go ahead and fix it. We're still here, though. We're still able to hear perfectly.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask.
Go ahead.
I know. It's a little going back to that whole pillar of commitment. I know we feel like we do have the commitment from you guys, from the team, but as an owner, how do you? I know the USO is kind of for a lot of players is kind of a stepping stone into starting their careers, into hopefully going to MLS or into other leagues. So how do you ensure the players' commitment to the team, especially when it's a starting project?
That's a great question, and I'm going to answer it almost with your question. One of the things Warren wanted to do right away once we had our full roster. There you guys are there. One of the first things he wanted to do right away when we had a roster was have them over to my house for a dinner and just introduce yourself, get to know the guys, and just talk to them and let them know what you expect out of them. And one of the things I said to them was, you're going to be treated here better than anywhere else in North America.
Yep.
At this level. We think that we can run a club here that's going to be not only the best at the USL, but even beyond that. But that comes with the understanding that you'll never disrespect this club. We're going to take the best care of you, but the minute we see anything like that, or the minute you step out of line with what our pillars are, with what we're trying to do, we don't have patience for that. Now, that's easier said than done when you have a bunch of trophies in a cabinet. We don't have that, right? We're not like the Patriots where we can point to a bunch of trophies and go, hey, look at what we started here, kick rocks.
Yeah.
You know, now it helps having somebody like Landon Donovan, right? That can really set the tone there and define that. But what I followed that up with when I spoke to them is I understand that that's what this is, right? U.S. sports, we're not used to divisions, a Division I, a Division II, but where do all the best players from Brazil end up playing? In Europe, somewhere else, and their country's clubs are used almost as feeders, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I see this. There's a step that's above us here in America, but there's a step that's above us even greater over abroad. And for a lot of these guys, this is their way out of their original countries or a way to feed their families. So I will never stand in the way of somebody trying to advance their career, whether that be a player or a coach or somebody in the front office. If there is something bigger and better out there, then let's get you to that place, because I think that's going to help bring in all the other players. They're going to call their agent and say, hey, I just watched a guy go from Loyal to here. I watched a guy go, or say, man, I saw a guy who was mistreated somewhere else. He went to San Diego, revitalized his career, you know. And so I think you can get commitment from stuff like that. I think you also add people to your roster that you know probably aren't going anywhere after this, like a Sal Zizou, somebody who's a local who can talk to people about what San Diego means to them. So I think it's a balancing act about getting the roster right, and it will take time to develop the cultural things that we want, you know, San Diego Loyal to stand for. But I think there's a way you can tell people to commit while they're here, knowing that for some of them, they could be going somewhere greater, you know.
Yeah, and I've wondered, and I've told Tony this and mentioned it to other people. I don't know if you can answer this, but I know in the USL, it's a lot of the players go to the teams on loans. And I was wondering, have you guys ever considered maybe looking into younger players in Mexico to bring on loan? Because there's a lot of talent in the Mexican league of young players that don't get to play due to the fact that a lot of international players of higher age and higher talent go to the league to play, so those young talents don't get the development they deserve. So I was just curious if you guys ever mentioned that or thought about looked into that.
Absolutely. I'm sure you guys knew that we were about to play Cholos on March 28th before everything got shut down.
Yeah.
That game was not just going to be a game, but also kind of a launch of a relationship. Nothing formal, right? We have nothing written with them, but we understand that we can help each other. Like you said, there are players on that team that are young, that are sitting, and that are just not getting playing time. And could they help us? Maybe. But again, you have to make sure that it's the right fit, right? Is that 16, 17-year-old kid, whether it be from Cholos or somewhere else, does he come to us and go, well, I'm no longer with my parent team. I'm not going to care. I'm not here to commit. You know, so you have to make sure, yes, we want to build those relationships, and yes, we want to bring those players to us, but we have to make sure that their commitment is right? No. Is a relationship between a club like that one where they're just sending us players that come down here and then don't really, they develop here, but then they never make it back to their parent club, or they never see somewhere else. So you have to make sure that you do it right, and the commitment from the player or his intentions are correct.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. And you know, going into that would also, you know, going into that I guess Latino demographic or Mexican demographic would help the Loyal too, because we're San Diego, it's a melting pot here. And I was curious, what have been some of your experiences, Andrew? You know, you're a San Diego guy, not beyond California burritos and taquitos and all that stuff. Like, what's your experience, man, with the Latino community, with the Hispanics? We're not even, you know, just other people, maybe south of the 8, north of the 8, however you want to say it. You know, what's been your experience with, you know, nuestra gente, our people?
Well, let me just start here. As a Greek American, I've always grown up multicultural, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was raised around a lot of Greeks. I never had a traditional Thanksgiving dinner. There was no such thing as turkey and mashed potatoes. It was lamb and pasticcio and
okay. I love it already.
And yes, and one thing that the Latino community and the Greek community get along with is we love to barbecue, right? And so so definitely playing soccer growing up, you know, that's one way you can get to know the Latino community, especially later in life, playing pickup leagues and stuff like that. There's a good one here in Point Loma. The water tower, unfortunately, now is closed.
Oh,
I was on a team. I was on a Latino team. I was the only white guy on the team. I was their goalkeeper. I was the fill-in. They didn't know me. We were okay.
Goalkeeper.
We were playing. I didn't know this before the game started. We were playing the team that these group of guys originally used to play on, but then there was a mutiny and they split. But I didn't know about this. I was just filling in. I showed up.
Rivalry game.
I had played like several other games with them. I showed up. Something happens. I think it was down on their end. Full on fist fight. Both teams just go. And I'm like, no, I don't know you guys.
Yeah.
Just another Thursday at the water tower.
Yeah. But I can tell you, every part of San Diego has rich cultural history.
Yeah.
There's obviously strong Latino culture. There's a strong African culture that loves soccer here as well.
Yes.
You know, huge Caribbean culture. You just have to find the right spots. Asian culture, you know, that's what I love. Like, you can explore different parts of San Diego, whether it's the South Bay, Linda Vista, Claremont, you know, Carlsbad. You get some of the Hawaiian and Pacific Islander flavor up there. There's so many different pockets of San Diego where you can touch different cultures. You just gotta go find them.
No, definitely. And that's the thing too. Like, we're trying our best and getting that voice out with our own people, because, you know, to be completely honest, there is that, not necessarily hesitation, but there is that second guessing of like, well, you know, San Diego Loyal, this is the American style football, and it's something that we actually touched with Ricardo Campos with, about, you know, we can't be just so snobbish because we're, you know, we grew up with the sport, and, you know, we're it's in our DNA, whereas some of the people that tend to be fans of the U.S. style of play grew with the sport later in life, so they don't know much about the sport. They don't know this. So, you know, it's a stigma that, you know, we have to move past in order to accept and be true to what we say and accept everybody and be supportive of this one thing, this one project, which is Loyal. So that's something that I think it's a great job that's been happening, is you guys have been part of that unification of all the barrios and all the neighborhoods.
Yeah, and you'll see more of that as we go forward. We have some really great community projects that we're going to be doing. Again, everything was about to get going, and then just hard breaks on everything. And I say this every once in a while, and I don't know if hardcore soccer fans like me to say it, but I think it's important that we reiterate this to people. We want people to fall in love with San Diego Loyal, and just so happen to fall in love with soccer in the process, right?
Yes.
I want to get people to Torero Stadium or wherever we end up being, who go, wow, this is an incredible event. And then maybe the second time they go, oh, there's soccer going on too. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And then they start asking questions. They go with somebody like you, you know, or, you know, and then they start falling in love with the game. I don't need everybody to understand what formation we play, how we want to attack, all that kind of stuff. I want people to go back after they leave a match and go, I met Warren Smith. I met Landon. I got to shake a player's hand. I got to listen to a band that I love. I got to eat food that I know in my community, you know, and that kind of stuff. And then the person goes, wait, didn't you go to a soccer game? And they go, oh yeah, we also won 2-1, you know?
Exactly.
So that's kind of how I look at it, because San Diego is a tough sports town, and we have to take time to educate people.
No, definitely. And that's something that it's my job to do every day after the Loyal game. I don't know if you know this. I'm the insider for Extra 1360, where I teach a bunch of white guys about soccer.
All right.
Yeah, and so it's that thing, and I can tell, you know, when they requested somebody to do this soccer SD Loyal Insider, it just tells me, like, look, they know that they have to talk about it, they don't know who to talk about it, so they'll try to get somebody. So that's where I'll come in and be like, hey, look, you should look up for this guy. But definitely, it's resonating a lot more of a San Diego thing primarily, and then, like you said, soccer later, and that's what we hope to get those other sports fans, because it's fun, man. Like, I don't know, like there's sports like I don't know, like tennis, sure. Like, I mean, tennis is great, but there's
no, you don't want to go down there. You're gonna get people in your inbox.
Yeah, exactly. Tennis is fantastic, but no, so there's some games that might be. I'll be honest, baseball, man. Baseball is watching grass grow with people in the way, and that's it. And let's be honest, I love baseball. I love my Padres. Landon asked me after the game, "Hey, what was the Padres score?" And 5-1, and it made my day that he asked me. But no, so it's a great sport, and it's the global sport, man, and it's such a fun time.
Well, and I think something that we spoke to earlier, we want you guys to feel like you really own the club.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if Padres fans can say that. I don't know if Goals fans can say that. I'm not trying to pick on the Padres. That's a big thing for me, is educating people on how European soccer started, right? So soccer in England, your club team was run by your bar owner, and the team sucked. Nobody came to the bar to drink. And if you wanted to complain about how the team was doing, you went to the bar.
Yeah.
And the community really pitched in and was a part of it. And like at the end of the season, still in a lot of those big European clubs, there's a fan-based Player of the Year trophy given out, or goalie of save of the year, young Player of the Year awards, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so a big focus for me is, how do we allow the community to be involved? Yes, people have to steer the ship, right? Warren and myself and Landon and the team, we have to have some guide rails and focus it as we move forward. But how do we allow you guys to have the most amount of impact on the club, so you can stand in those stands and sing and feel like it belongs to you?
I think a step forward would be in getting that Spanish community. Hola, Andrew. Nosotros hablamos español. Cuando necesites, we got you for free services. You let us know, man. We got the equipment.
We appreciate it.
But a little bit about that Ricardo interview was, it struck me that not just Ricardo, not just yourself, I guess Avi and a couple of other Jack too, are really into F1 Formula 1 racing. And I've never, I know it peripherally from Michael Schumacher, Pablo Montoya. There's another one.
What about right now, Sergio Perez?
Sure.
That's the one.
President of Mexico was tweeting about him the other day.
Oh, really?
Because he's on a team. He's on a team where there's two drivers on every team. Mm-hmm. The other driver on his team is the owner's son.
Oh.
So he's never gonna lose his seat, right?
Okay, yeah.
But Sergio Perez, it looks like, is going to be losing his seat. So the president of Mexico put out a tweet saying, "Hey, we got to bombard F1 and their team to save Sergio Perez so he doesn't lose his seat with the team."
All right. That's what I was going to ask. Who do I look for? Because Ricardo said, look, I love Brazilian culture, and it worked perfectly where he's like, okay, just like the most serious face, Senna. Just watch the documentary. I'm like, sure, I watched it. I cried. I was so excited. I was like, it was amazing, beautiful. But I was going to ask you, like, so who do I watch now if I really want to start getting into it?
So I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. I tell long stories.
Yeah.
Senna, the people who did Senna, incredible. They did another documentary on Netflix, which is more current, called Drive to Survive.
Okay.
It's about Formula One. And it's like Hard Knocks, right? Where they follow the teams throughout the season. That is what hooked me. Okay. I was not actually into F1 until I watched that.
Okay.
I was into MotoGP, and I have for a long time, which is the same thing, but the motorcycles.
Yeah.
So I like auto racing. That's been a part of my blood. So it wasn't very hard to like it. Once you dive into something and you start understanding the rules and why they do the things that they do, you can get to why you like it. So if you want to enjoy it, watch that series. It's 2 seasons, 30-minute episodes. They're really easy to digest. And then you will, from that series, develop who you like.
Okay.
here's the little thing that I don't like about Formula One and most auto racing. There's no salary cap.
Oh.
So the teams that spend the most have the best cars.
Yeah.
And so there really isn't an equal playing field. So in Formula One, it's Mercedes, it's Ferrari, and it's Red Bull, the two helmets that you see sitting here.
Okay.
Outside of that, it's everybody else.
Oh, okay.
So there's an American team that joined a few years ago, Haas Racing. Haas is a very big American racing name. They're both in NASCAR and in IndyCar, but they can't spend the hundreds of millions of dollars that Ferrari is spending.
Yeah.
So so it's a little unbalanced. You kind of go in knowing, okay, Mercedes is probably going to win the race. Max Verstappen with Red Bull is going to do well. Ferrari will somehow find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. And then you've got these other teams, Haas being one of them, Racing Point, which is the team with the Mexican driver.
Okay.
Though they're all kind of middle of the pack teams that are fighting for the rest, kind of a deal.
Oh, okay.
So you what I like to say is pick a super driver from one of those three teams, and then pick one of those middle of the pack guys and kind of watch and see how they do.
Okay. I'm definitely going to look into that because, just like you said, as long as I know the rules and there's something at stake, I'm going to watch, and it's for sport. So I was captivated by it.
I'll take this a step further. This was purely by coincidence. We needed somebody to do our stats for our broadcast team. And Jesse, who works for us, he lives in an apartment complex. He said he was walking in one day and there was some event going on. He goes in, he ends up talking to this guy. This guy is the head stats guy for Formula One.
Oh my God.
Every single broadcast that airs Formula One uses his media packet on air during their broadcast.
Wow.
So when you watch that series, you'll hear the announcers talking about different stats. That's all coming from this one guy who lives here in San Diego and is now our head stats guy for the team.
Wow. That's amazing.
So again, we talk about our pillars, right? Another one of our pillars is competing.
Yeah.
So we want to compete in everything that we do. So this gentleman's name is Sean Kelly. Sean, he's been furiously working away on F1 as they have returned. And now we've returned, and he started doing our media packets, and he put out our first one for Shannon and for Jack for the last game. And it was 2 pages. The one he does for Formula One for each race is 22 pages.
Oh, Jesus.
He sent it to the USL as well. The USL got back to us and said, we've never seen anything this detailed.
Oh my goodness.
For a USL game. So right away I went to Warren. I was like, this is it. This is another example of us competing at everything that we do. We're going to put together the best stat packages. We're going to put, that sounds silly, but we just want to do everything at the best of our ability. And then on top of that, how can we maximize his talent, right? We found something, and we found somebody who's very talented at what they do. How can we maximize it within the club? And I think that's very interesting.
No, definitely. That's fascinating, actually, because that's one of the things that it's on a much smaller scale. But that's kind of what we discussed too. Like, if we're gonna do it, I want to do things right. Like, I don't want to do a podcast with an iPhone with 2 of us standing next to it. Like, what's the point of that? Yeah. If we're gonna do it, let's go ahead and do it forward again in a much smaller scale than that. But that is really something, because again,
Landon's quote, "How you do anything is how you do everything." It's not his specific quote, but that's one he uses a lot, right? So if you guys are going to do a podcast, do it to the best of your ability. Don't do it on an iPhone, right? Who cares about whether it's a soccer club? Raise your family, how you do your work, how you do anything is how you do everything. Just bring it all the time.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, as we're going to go ahead and move it towards the last portion of the interview, I usually ask the players, what's a great goal that they scored when nobody was around? I knew you were a great volleyball player. Tell me about the greatest play that you did on a volleyball court that no one really saw, but that you remember.
No one really
saw. That you remember to this day.
Yeah. So how much do you guys know about volleyball?
Well, my girlfriend was a all college person, and I watched a lot of volleyball, and I got to learn a lot of volleyball. So
Okay.
I'm versed.
Yeah,
All right.
I would try some volleyball
at
too.
6 feet tall myself, I'm considered short for men's volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a setter. So the guy who touches the ball second,
Yep.
right? And I set up the plays everywhere. My chances getting onto the court in the front row was to set the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the back row was to play a lot of defense. And that was something, no matter what the sport, I've always loved. I've always just loved grinding defensively. And men's volleyball moves very, very quickly. So you have to be able to, the most important skill in volleyball and in a lot of sports, in my opinion, is your ability to read what's happening before it happens, right? So as a defender, that has to be a good skill of yours. So I can remember this play. My buddy and I were called the Gnat Attack because we were just buzzing. We were just like little flies everywhere, right? It was our job to pick up any ball we could and get any ball we could. So definitely just one that sticks out right now was just not what we call an in-system play, but an out-of-system play. Somebody just came up, hit the ball really hard, goes towards one of our other defenders. He gets his platform out. It ricochets off his platform. Your side of the volleyball court is 30 feet, the size of it, right? I was on the right side. That happened on the left side. Ricochets off him and back out of the gym. And I just took off after it, played the ball back, went through the gym doors, out of the gym, and we ended up winning the point. So that probably, there was another one where I was chasing after the ball, got it, had to leap into the stands and sat down next to somebody's grandmother and said, "How you doing?" and then jumped back.
Oh man,
I remember that one. That was fun. That was at a tournament. I remember that.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's what sports is, man. Like that's why we need fans back. We need people's grandmothers in the stands again.
Right.
I kind of picture it like in the NBA when the players try to get a ball and then they just land on the people sitting courtside.
Exactly.
Well, one last thing, Andrew, again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. We want to end it, and then just if you could stick around, we'll do a little follow-up at the end after we hang up or after we stop recording. We have a fan that I know you know, Afmir Lopez. He has it on his skin, man. I don't know if you know this, but unfortunately, Afmir is moving to Chicago, Illinois area, and so
I did not know that.
Yeah, so we asked him. I talked to him a little bit to send a little message to you, so we're gonna go ahead and play it and get your reaction for it. See if this plays.
Hey Andrew, how's it going? First off, I wanted to thank you for what you're doing for San Diego. San Diego Loyal is very special, and it's going to be a big thing. I wanted to talk a little bit about you and about the things about you that kind of draw me into this club. It all goes back to the night of the kit reveal where you came up and you offered to take care of what it cost to pay for my tattoo. My thought was never that, obviously, but I thought it was really special that you were connected so much to the fans and to your supporters that you were willing to offer that. I think that's kind of what sets you apart and what I appreciate, whether it's being affluent or selling out because of your life struggles. You seem like a guy that would never do that. You seem like a guy who was raised the right way, and I appreciate you being the owner of this club. I think your family and your parents would be proud of the man that you are and what you do, what you're doing for our community, beyond just the soccer team, just your overall perspective and points of views. Now we're relocating to Chicago, me and my family. I'm going out there hopefully to multiply my finances and provide for my family and follow career opportunities. But I'll always be San Diego loyal. I'll always do everything I can to promote the club and to help it grow. So cheers to Andrew. Thank you again for what you're doing for San Diego. I'll be back for a lot of matches, and I'll be around. Thank you.
But yeah, I did meet with Afmir a little bit to get on some stickers, socially distanced, and man, like what a guy, man. I don't know, man, like to have your brand, like what you're working for, Andrew, on somebody else's skin like that, like it's amazing, man, and it's a real testament, again, a reflection of the great work that you've and your team have done. Hopefully, again, this investment that you've made, monetarily and time wise, you just putting your essence into it. I'm pretty sure, it's resonating not just with Afamir, but across San Diego, man.
Thank you for saying that. And unfortunately didn't get to meet him too many more times than that one night. We've communicated through social media and stuff. But I was just blown away. Like the minute I heard that was happening, I reached out to my team and I was like, I want to take care of this. I never needed to make it public. I just wanted to pull him aside and say, hey, that was incredible. Like, not only was it the tattoo that blew me away, like that's a step, right? That's commitment, right? It was the note he wrote. Do you remember that?
I actually don't.
Okay, so he wrote a note of what it meant, of what what the crest meant to him, but what having a soccer team here in town meant to him. Mm-hmm. And that's what floors me. Like, we haven't done any recently, but we've done some other listening sessions with different groups of fans. And we did one with a group of diehard fans, local supporters, the whole deal. Mm-hmm. And two different families, not just an individual, families told me stories about how they were months away from moving from San Diego. And then we started a soccer team and they decided to stay. Wow. Like, I can't wrap my brain around that. Like, you were ready to start a whole new life, ready to do something somewhere else. And just because we started a soccer team, you said, no, wait a minute, I'm probably going to pay more in rent. Living here in San Diego would be more. One of the families is going to Arizona. It's definitely more expensive than living there, all because we're going to kick around a soccer ball. But then you start talking to these people and you realize that the club can have more of an impact than just scoring a goal, right? 100%. I've said this a couple times now, and I want people to understand this. We want San Diego Loyal to be a living, breathing human being. When we do stuff in the community, we want it to be felt. We want it to feel like we're actually reaching out and touching you. That's weird to say in a pandemic. Yeah. I guess we shouldn't say that. But we want there to be soul behind what we're doing. You hear about sports teams donating money here, donating money there, but you never hear about it and how it affects the community after that. Yeah. Like, we want to do projects where we put our money down and we say, this is how it's going to make San Diego a better place to live, right? Yeah. And then so people, when they see your sticker on your laptop or you see the locals, they understand that, hey, those guys play soccer, but they're also doing stuff to make this place a better place.
No, and you can tell with that. I mean, you guys could have capped it, to be completely honest, with the money you raised for Feeding San Diego, but no, you guys went above and beyond and did the Rady Children's Hospital. Even in spite of everything that was happening, like that wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah. It was actually, an event, a physical event that with the pandemic you can't do, but no, you guys still made it work, and that's personal for me and for you too. We've both been at Children's Hospital for various reasons. Yeah.
And let me say this to add to that. We didn't do anything else but ask the community to take part in it. Yeah, we donated some money ourselves, and I DJ'd a little bit. And we, we had fun with the different things that we were doing. But the response from the community, especially now, was incredible. Like we said earlier, everybody's hurting, everybody, and people stepped up. We raised half of what the Padres raised last year for that same event. Yeah. Yes. And we are nowhere close to the amount of fan base size that they have yet. So if we can do that in year one, get ready. We're going to beat the Padres next year. Oh, yeah. And then we're going to put everybody on notice that we're the club in town that's helping this community.
That's right.
That's right. Absolutely. And I think that's a fantastic place to end it. Watch San Diego Loyal tomorrow get the revenge, get it back from Los Dos up in LA. Disgusting.
Now,
LA.
Tony, you had a prediction that was right on Saturday. Are you predicting again?
Absolutely. I mean, we got away from Marissa because she predicted that they would lose, and it's the first time that they actually won at home with her. Well, let's see. I think a prediction. I'm gonna go ahead and go with a 3-2 Loyal win 3-2 Loyal win. It's
Wow.
going to be high powered, and I think they've learned their lesson. And I think we got caught on our heels in that first game back. We were ready for their youth. We were ready for that team to make mistakes, but they just didn't. And the mistakes that they made, we didn't capitalize on. And I think Landon and the guys are going to learn from that and come out stronger.
I agree. I think Landon has his team studied well now, and I think SD Loyal is going to win 2-0.
Okay. Oh, I
All
love
right.
it. Clean
All
sheet.
right,
Clean
all
sheet.
right.
What about you, Andrew?
Dos a zero.
Put it. Okay. Come
You had to bring those up.
Andrew.
Oh man, we're
Look,
Mexicans, man.
Look,
That hurts.
We have. Okay.
Hey, it hasn't gone well for us lately.
But definitely. Thank you for your time, Andrew. Really appreciate it. El Jefe, the boss. If you could stick around real quick, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up recording.
Yep.
But again, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Follow San Diego Loyal on everything. Follow everything that they're doing is fantastic. It's our team, personal, and we thank you for starting it here in San Diego, man.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Absolutely. Cool.